What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilk, and if you guys haven't been checking out the series is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Of course, today we're going to talk about episode 5 of Wistoria's Wand and Sword. And we left off last episode, they were leading up to this big tournament. And for me, it was like, it's episode 5, they're already getting into a tournament. But yeah, the series is just not holding anything back. They're just going at this point, which I'm fine with. I mean, it's working. It's working really, really well. This episode basically kicks off where they're just having this whole build-up. They're introducing the other characters. Basically, like, hey, remember the fire guy? Remember the ice guy? Here's your pro tag. Here's everyone rooting for him. Here's everyone that absolutely does not want to see him succeed. And go. It's pretty much how it worked out. Although I will say there were a few other surprise elements here. They did introduce the Dragon Riders. I think they called them the Sky Racers. So there's a lot happening simultaneously. But the main drive is this big, essentially race from outside the confines of the school into the very center where they've got this crown on a pedestal, and whoever gets there gets there. Meanwhile, on everybody else that's going around, they have to contend with all these traps and all these monsters and each other, which is the real fun part, which we'll get to here in a moment. So once again, if you haven't followed this series, it's about time, guys. It's 100% time. We will be dropping some spoilers, but before we get into that, I want to talk about something that, to me, was very interesting. Because for those of you guys that don't know about this channel, we pretty much have been covering mostly Danmachi Omori Freeze, who moved on into the Danmachi Battle Chronicle game recently when Omori Freeze closed. In fact, Dankuro is currently doing a campaign for this anime because the writer for this series and the writer for Danmachi, well, they're the same person. So, although the artist for the manga is a different person, the author, the person who's actually penning the story, is very much the same. And so you have a situation where, if those of you that are Danmachi fans probably picked up on it immediately, that there were one huge, but two big, I guess cameo appearances is not the right way to put it, because they're not the same characters, but they're close enough. They're definitely homages to Danmachi, and that is Old Girl Behind Us, these unnamed elves that kind of kicked off the ceremony. Old Girl back there looks just like short-haired Leafia. Just dead on. And there was another one that was called Dark and had the basically a mask. Just immediately I was like, is that Philvis? Oh my god. So a lot of interesting stuff here, a lot of Easter eggs for the other series. Absolutely love that. But what I appreciate is it doesn't distract from the plot. It was literally just kind of like a footnote, and then we're moving on. So, getting into the meat and potatoes of this episode, first things first, I have to give it my ratings, and animation-wise, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Some people think my ratings are a bit harsh, but as I always say, for me, 5 is average. If it's 5, it's average. And this was way above average. There were some moments that did leave me a little you could have tried a little harder. But by and large, the studios really raised the bar for me as far as what I expect out of a series. Which does mean that going into our season 5 of Danmachi, I'm probably going to be a lot more critical. But it's just the difference between these guys and JC Staff. Just really... Sorry, it's really hard to compare the two. But by and large, absolutely loved it. Like I said, there were a few moments where I was like, it's recycled frames. It's, you use CGI there, and I get it. The golems are all CGI replicated, and they use a lot of the same armatures and even movements through all of them. There were a couple of jarring frame motions, especially at the beginning, where they have the Sky Riders and all that. But by and large... very good. I mean, I'd even go maybe 8.5. I can't give it a 9, but I do feel like an 8 isn't good enough. So let's just say 8.5, which is, I know, a cop-out answer, but it's my answer. Story-wise, though, man. Story-wise, 9. Not quite a 10 because there are predictable moments, but a solid 9. I love the fact that they just keep giving Will ways and reasons that he can succeed without needing magic, which, there's a lot of, like, MacGuffins they introduce and just random things that happen that you go, okay. But as you'll see here in a moment when we get into the synopsis, essentially, unless we broke from synopsis, but it doesn't matter. Essentially, what's going to wind up happening here is he's in a showdown, and there's no way out. Like, it's him again, and he keeps getting himself into these situations, and it keeps working out, and I cannot wait to see how it works out. So solid 9 story. Music was, I'll be honest with you, I don't think the music was something that I really paid a huge amount of attention to, but I know the music direction is always fantastic here, so I give that another solid 8 to 8.5. Just because they really know how to set a scene and set its own. And I think it's one of those when the music isn't jarring, when the music isn't overpowering, when the music just runs, like the soundtrack is the soundtrack. I think that says something. I don't necessarily think it elevated too many scenes, but I do think it was, it was on point, and it was very, very good. Well above average. So all in all, fantastic episode. High 8s, low 9s, whatever you want to give it. Fantastic episode, especially considering we're coming out of an episode before that might have been a little bit of admittedly a lull spot, but a much needed lull spot. We need to catch our breath between these, especially for people that are binging the series. Just catch our breath between these episodes. So let's get into the synopsis. And kind of talk about this, because obviously, like I said, there was the build-up, there was all this, here's the stuff. I love they literally just had like the little Quidditch, the little snitches, except not, because that would be IP infringement. They don't have wings, they have magic circles. Yes, it's not IP infringement. It's not IP infringement. I did appreciate that. Also, it's not the sport. They're literally the cameras. That's how your competitors, or all the people in the arena watch it. It's not IP infringement. I'll say it again. So when we get down to it, basically Will, they say go, and Will and everybody else take off. And most dudes are just kind of like, okay, yeah, we're going. Or you have like the ice dude who's just like casually strolling through everything. But literally he comes up on his first task and it's just like, and everything's frozen and I'm just walking. Like, dude is just an absolute unit. Will, on the other hand, he's got everything to prove. And there are so many people that want to see him fail. But he gets into that first challenge. There's like a wall of golems. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen the episode yet, this is the point at which you probably want to just go, meow, and come back after you've watched the episode. Just saying. Just pause. Don't turn me off. I need that beautiful view time. But pause. Now that little caveat's out of the way, old girl just literally his little friend. Clearly, she's interested in him, and he's got nothing going on. His interest level is old girl at the top. But she brings in a magical gauntlet. And he's like, cool, punchy time, and starts wiping everything out. And I love it, too, because they're like, she's like, it's a magic gauntlet. So long as he's using it, he's using magic. It's not against the rules. And I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. I'm not quite sure it's right, but you're not wrong. It explains, too, why he can't use his sword, because if he uses his sword, obviously it nullifies magic. That would be distinctly against the rules, or if not, quickly disqualified. So anything that nullifies magic, obviously, I would imagine they're it kind of goes without saying, but that's not allowed. They don't expressly say that, but I think we can all surmise that. We all have, pretty easy thing to understand. Yeah, so essentially he's just wiping everything out. Just fisticuffs. At one point, she spawns in dozens of swords, and he's literally using them as projectiles. They're giant great swords. They look like Cloud's Buster Sword. And he's just like, hiya! Hiya! Like flinging them like they're darts. Absolutely great moment. Then you have magic circles that are like in the sky and on the ground. What does he do? He literally tears the ground out so they're still attached to the ground and nullifies the other magic. It's just so good. Like, literally uses his wits and his mind to get himself out of these situations. And I think that's they constantly call him the book learner. And I think that's the one thing you can take away from this is he's a real smart dude. He reminds me of, dare I make the comparison, he kind of reminds me of early Midoriya from My Hero, where he doesn't have a quirk, he doesn't have the powers, but he's got good brains. So nevertheless, you're really looking at a dude who's figured it out. He knows how to get in, he knows how to get out, he knows everything he needs to do to be successful, and he frankly is. But where the episode leaves us, and I think the climax that is we're all kind of expected, is he runs into Julius, the ice guy, and that dude starts like giving him the works. Like, he literally blows a hole in Will's cape, and then immediately there's just like rush of fire that comes from behind of all of them, and Will is only really able to deflect it by pulling up a piece of like the ground and kind of like covering himself. And for a minute there, you're like, did he just vaporize the ice guy? But no, that ain't a thing. So he starts shooting his mouth off, and he's like, bro, you saved me in the cave, and I don't know if I can live with that. I hate it, and I hate you, and now we're fighting about it. That's kind of where the episode ends off. Julius, the ice dude, is just like, more or less like surrounds them with ice, keeps everyone else out, and he's like, and now I'm going to be amused. And I love it. And so I can't wait for the next episode because this showdown is going to be intense. I think the one difference between Julius, I can't remember the other dude's name, but the fire guy, Julius clearly he's cocky, but he definitely has his wits about him. He knows what he needs to do to succeed and survive. The other dude, he's just a hothead. I mean, that's no pun intended, but that's the joke. I think he's going to fall pretty fast. He's going to leave himself open to something stupid, and he's just going to get taken out. They do definitely tell you that he's powerful and he's not a complete dummy, but at the same rate, like, he's underestimating his opponent by a huge margin. And we kind of already know that. Now, the fight between Julius and Will, I kind of hope they MacGuffin their way out of that. I know that sounds really stupid, but I really hope they find a way to, like, save that showdown for a little bit later, because that's a showdown I think is going to be really, really intense, because that dude he's a unit. He's cocky, but he's not an idiot. And I really think that showdown is going to be one that probably needs to be like late series or whatever. But nevertheless, guys, stoked about the next episode. I cannot personally wait. I kind of envy the people that are binging this, but at the same rate, nah. Not really. Kind of, but not really. Like, at least they get to go, boop, next episode, and I'm over here, like, pulling my hair out for a week. But nevertheless, y'all, if you haven't been checking out Wistoria, make sure you guys do so. If somehow you got all the spoilers, you got all that, just go watch the damn thing. And make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. I'll be back with more Wistoria coming up next week.